We'll talk. Today we review Terrence Malick's The Thin Red Line, based on a novel by James Jones. Now, Malick hadn't directed a movie since Days of Heaven 20 years earlier. So when he decided to make this World War II epic, he attracted an all-star cast. Some say Malick's film clocked in at 5 hours and that he whittled it down to 3. This wasn't because of studio pressure. Malick had final cut, and he even barred the producers from visiting the film locations. If you went to the movies to see World War II battles, you got them. They were great. But they were bookended by voice-over narratives, meditations, deep thoughts about good, evil, love, nihilism, God, and finding one's way. There is a lot of visual poetry here, as if to say, we found a nature paradise. Now let's destroy it. Yet this is misleading, since the very first shot of the film is of a crocodile, a predator, entering the waters. That same crocodile would end up dead, prey to the soldiers that killed it. Later, after a battle, a bird is seen dying, victim of gunfire. And a character says, "Those vines are choking those trees. Nature is cruel." The film begins in the Pacific Islands, where two soldiers had gone AWOL. Now, AWOL means absent without official leave. In other words, they had escaped the military. It is here that we get most of the idyllic interludes. Beautiful photography of the beaches, lush rainforests, and innocent, happy natives. It's a paradise on earth. Now, one soldier is Private Witt, who sees this little earthy Eden as God's intention. He meditates on this quite often. Witt is played by Jim Caviezel, who later played Jesus in The Passion of the Christ. The soldiers are picked up by a patrol boat, and rather than be court-martialed, a Sergeant Welsh, played by Sean Penn, decides to assign them to work as stretcher bearers at Guadalcanal. Welsh and Witt would have many conversations. Witt, the idealistic optimist, and Welsh, the pragmatic nihilist. Welsh at one point says that they are nothing but property, and that they were dying for property. These existential questions are interesting. Now, water is a key element here. It cleanses the body and the soul. Without water, the soldiers pass out, of course. But when they receive some time off, they would wade in the ocean, happy, perhaps spiritually connected. It's also telling that none of the battles happened at the coast. All the battles were inland, so you were safe if you were close to the water. Captain Staros is played by Elias Koteas, who is Catholic, guilt-ridden, and concerned and protective of his men. He doesn't want any of them to die. The most dramatic scenes are between Captain Staros and Colonel Tall, who is obsessed with a win and intent on a suicidal full frontal assault on a hill at all cost. Colonel Tall is not wrong when he states that Staros doesn't have the stomach for war, but Staros comes out ahead when his standing up to the colonel saves perhaps hundreds of lives and earns him the loyalty of his men. In fact, his example causes a Private Dahl, played by Dash Mihak, to put away his almost paralyzing fear and volunteer for a dangerous mission where he plays a key role. The last shot we have of Colonel Tall is his contemplating his deeds and wondering if he did right. The movie is beautifully photographed. I love this shot of the sun coming over the land, but unfortunately further exposing the American soldiers that were hiding in the tall grass. I found the charge up the hill towards enemy fire exhilarating. Now, Sergeant Welsh risked his life to save a dying soldier, and this scene is heartbreaking. One character, played by Woody Harrelson, accidentally blows up a grenade on his belt, and as he puts it, he blew his butt off. Now, I'm not sure if this was meant to be humorous, but I found it funny. John Savage plays a soldier suffering a nervous breakdown. This didn't work for me, probably because I had seen him do the same thing in the film The Deer Hunter. So here it feels a little bit forced. Now, one of the best edited and best filmed scenes was when a handful of soldiers led by John Cusack take out a bunker. And now some complaints. The voiceovers are too many, and they often say the same thing. And all the shots are beautiful, but they linger too long. Now, the portrayal of the Japanese, I know the intent is to humanize them and show them as being just as afraid of the Americans, but there are so many images of them crying and screaming that it borders on hysterics. Here and there you'll find a Japanese soldier stoic, calm, and praying, but these shots are few. And I found this scene way too pretentious.
Are you righteous? Kind? Does your confidence lie in this?
But my main complaint is how Malick disrespected his actors. Biggest example here is Adrian Brody. He was hired to play the lead in the movie. He spent 6 months filming, sweating. His uniform wasn't washed the whole time. And afterward, he traveled to promote the film and only later found out that his entire performance was cut down to maybe 5 minutes of screen time and maybe 2 lines. Bill Pullman, Mickey Rourke were cut out completely, and George Clooney, this had only 1 scene and it lasted about 1 minute. To have actors pop in and out like this was, for me, very jarring. It was as if I was just sitting there thinking, hey, isn't that so-and-so? It was very distracting. But anyway, let's get back to the positives. There is a backstory of a Private Bell played by Ben Chaplin, a very brave soldier. And this man is very much in love with his wife. We get several voiceovers of love letters that he sends her. He uses his love of his wife as his anchor, and he is determined not to let the war change him. I love the upside down shot of his wife on the swings. These are great, beautifully shot moments. Therefore, it is that much more devastating when she writes to him to tell him that she has fallen for another man. Yet, Private Bell still wonders why there is so much love in the world, and spiritual Private Wit wonders why there is so much evil. Private Wit thinks often about his mother and how she faced death with what he called a calm. He remembers a birdcage in her bedroom the day she died, and later on when he's in a bombed out home out on the islands, he sees an empty birdcage and it triggers the memory again. Private Wit suddenly realizes that he loves his brothers in Company C. He belongs with the troops, not with the natives. Near the end of the film, spoiler alert, he takes an insane decision, sacrifices himself, attracts the Japanese to him, and runs away from the troops, thereby saving the battalion. The Japanese chase him and go away from the troops until he finds himself surrounded. Now, if you listen closely in this scene, right before Private Wit is shot and killed, he hears the sound of the ocean's surf. He has found his calm. In his mind, he imagines himself swimming with the native boys. Then you could barely hear a gunshot and you realize that he is dead. Now, The Thin Red Line was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, but it was facing a lot of stiff competition from Saving Private Ryan, another World War II epic. However, both films lost Best Picture to Shakespeare in Love. This is something that still angers me. Anyway, that's it. Let me know what you think. Send me your comments, or better yet, subscribe. My next Terrence Malick film review will be The New World. Until then, thanks for watching.